I need this. Not really. Hey guys, this is Bruce, and this is Convocourses Podcast. I do this once a week. This one's going to be pretty short. I'm actually not in my normal location, so I don't know how this is going to go. But I'm going to go ahead and do this anyway. We're just going to see how this goes. I'm actually on vacation, so this is going to be very short. I'm going to answer some questions. Lately, I've been getting a lot of questions, like too many for me to actually answer. On TikTok, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, like it's pretty crazy. So that's most of my content actually comes from just answering questions from you guys. So I'm going to do the same thing I always do, is just answer questions. And since I don't have anybody on right now, I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions from YouTube. And I apologize for the sounds. I'm not in my normal location. So I haven't had a vacation in like a year, and finally I'm doing it. But let me see. And that's something we could talk about. But first, I'm going to answer a couple questions. So I'm on YouTube right now, answering some of my comments. Somebody said CISSP is 4 hours now, so quite a bit less brutal than it was before. So when I first took it, it was 6 hours long total, and it was a written test. Well, it was literally, you would have a pencil and like a sheet, and you would like now it's like electronic, like you take it on on a computer. So that's definitely changed quite a bit from the last time I did it. So appreciate that comment. Let me see, somebody else's comment here said the degree doesn't. Okay, they're answering about a video I did about a degree is good for IT. I did this short 1 minute video about having a degree, because people ask me about whether they should get a degree or a certification, or what kind of degree they should get. And my comment on there was, yeah, a degree is good. It's definitely good. You're a technician. You're going to become an engineer to deepen your knowledge base and your competitiveness in this market. That's what I was saying, is like a degree is good to have. Do you absolutely have to have it? No. And this person added to that, they said a degree doesn't have to be in computers. I was telling them it should be in computers. You should do it in computers. They said, I have a social sciences degree, and I am a senior system admin in a Fortune 500 company, a fintech company. And I do a lot of encryption, PKI, vulnerability management, patching, auditing, system gardening, network security, etc. A good degree helps. By good, I mean to work your butt off and get a high passing grade. I should mention that I have an IT and project management compliance certs, but I got into IT just with my social sciences degree, and I got my Microsoft certification. So, and let me just piggyback on what he's saying. I've had coworkers who had one of my coworkers had an Egyptology degree. I don't know what it's called, but he was an expert on Egypt. And he was a coworker of mine. But that said, he also had like a Security Plus, and he was he had been doing the policy work we've been doing for many years. So that experience was enough to get him in the door, right? Even though he didn't have a STEM degree, he didn't have a science, technology, engineering, mathematics, or a computer degree, but his I think he had like either a PhD or a master's degree in Egyptology or something crazy. That said, it balanced out because this dude had so much experience doing policies, cybersecurity, policy stuff as an information system security officer for the government, that was able to get him in the door. What I was saying is that if you are a student, if you're starting out and you're wondering you want to break into IT, you really want to get in this market, the most competitive degree you can have is a computer type degree. It's just going to make you more competitive. It's going to make you more attractive to employers. That's what I'm saying. Can you do it with a STEM degree, with a mathematics or engineering? Yes, you can. I have plenty of my coworkers have had that with experience. I've met people like this dude's like social sciences, like a psychology degree or something like that. You could totally, I'm sure you could do that because I've had coworkers have just that. So you could do it. I'm just saying, if the most competitive thing you can have would be a computer degree and then some type of science, type engineering, technical degree, and then below that, anything else with a bunch of experience. So I stand by that. I mean, that's just what I've seen people have that they got them. I've met people with no degree come in here and kill it. So you can do it without a degree, but you're gonna have to, anything you don't have, they had to make it up in skills and experience. So if you have skills and experience, can get you almost in any door. So that's always going to be on the top. All right, let me see what else we got here. Somebody said, awesome, you deserve it. Thank you. I haven't had a vacation in a while, so and I know I'm always touting like, oh man, if you work remotely, you'll be able to travel, take your laptop. Well, the current job I have right now, I'm not able to, and I guess that's the topic we could talk about. I'm not able to take my laptop and travel with it. It's a government laptop. There's no way I can take it. So it's a remote job. Not all remote jobs are the same. So right now I have a remote job. It's remote, but I have to stay. That work has to stay in the United States. So I literally cannot do any of that work overseas, like any outside of the continental United States. I can't do it. So I've had jobs where it was 100% remote. I could work from anywhere, but I had to come back to the U.S. and travel every now and then. But I could work from overseas. It was no problem. I've had jobs where I could work from overseas, but I just had to let them know, hey, I'm going to be over here working from, as long as the time zones were good, they didn't care. But the majority of them, they had restrictions. And the restriction on this one is that you have to stay in CONUS with their work. That said, I didn't have a vacation for a while. So I was like, hey, and they let me go out for a while. So that's what's happening right now. Let me see. I'm taking the 601, and next year I'll be taking the 701. Do you have what changes they have made to the test? Are you referring to the Security Plus? Sounds like the Security Plus is I've been out of Security Plus for quite some time. I used to teach it back when it was a 101 and 102. That date me quite a bit. I took both of those tests and I taught it for some time, but I'm not sure like what. You could easily just go to the CompTIA site if that's what you're talking about. I think you're talking about CompTIA. Let me see. CompTIA is on 601, I think. Yeah, 601, and then the next one's 701. They update it like every couple of years. Yeah, go to the website and it'll have the best breakdown of the differences between those. And another place I would go, Jennifer, is on YouTube. Has such great resources because it's actual people telling you, hey, I took this cert, here's the differences, here's how I felt about it. It kind of gives you an anecdotal from a person's perspective. One of the best places I go to is YouTube for that kind of information, because somebody took that test and somebody's going to talk about it and how they felt about it and where it's at and stuff like that. So that's what I would do. All right, let me see here. I got some folks on TikTok. And if you're joining me late, just so you guys know, it's a different environment, different sound and everything. I'm on vacation, just going to do a quick kind of live here and answer some questions like normal. We do every week, kind of scrolling through TikTok. Let's see what we have here. Degrees help the young job seeker. I would argue that it helps if you're trying to level up at any point. Like myself, I know that the best way for me to get a management position would probably be to have a master's degree. Would help me a lot. Like I could probably do it now with my experience level, but a master's degree is required at some organizations. So I would argue whenever you're trying to level up, it's just a really good thing to have on your resume. Do you absolutely have to have it? No. But does it help you? Yes, it does. I'm having a tough time with the binary. Are you talking about the binary math stuff that you do like in networking? Yeah, that's is really tough for me too, if that's what you're talking about. Binary math is pretty crazy. That said, like one question I get often is, do you have to have, do you have to know mathematics to do IT or cybersecurity? And the answer to that is no, you don't, because cybersecurity and IT are very, very broad fields, and not everything is super technical. And most things do not go into math at all. Logic, yes, if you're doing scripting and programming and stuff, if that's a part of your job, then yeah, you'll have to know a little bit of that. But that depends on the requirements of that position. But math, very rarely. I mean, there's only specific jobs that actually really require it. And the only one off the top of my head, the only ones would be like really hardcore network engineers. They have to do a little bit of like subnet masking, which is a tiny bit of math. And then the other one would probably be cryptographers, crypto analysts and cryptographers, where they're doing math proofs and stuff like that. And even them, that's probably only the scientists that are actually breaking down, like people like Bruce Schneier. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but that's the dude who created Two Fish. That guy's a mathematician. Those types of dudes do like heavy math. But other than that, like regular dudes who are just laying pavement are not doing math proofs. You know what I mean? So we're just putting up drywall, we're putting up the framing, and they're paying the six figures to do that. So, we're not the dudes like inventing new shit. Let me see. Facts on CONUS. Yeah. Harsh reality. What's the path into GRC from cybersecurity? This is a good question. Good question. So you're in cybersecurity and you want to get into GRC. So first of all, let me map out the landscape of GRC, because a lot of people don't really know what it is. GRC stands for Governance, Risk, and Compliance. So that is, how does the organization manage the risk and the compliance with certain regulations depending on your sector. And what I mean by that is, if you're in the financial sector, there's certain rules and regulations your organization has to meet. If you're in the retail sector, there's certain things that your organization has to meet. If you're in the government, and so on and so forth. Each one of these, healthcare, all of them have their own regulations and laws and acts and things that they have to meet. And GRC it's a path that is making sure that the organization is in a line with those regulations, right? And there's certain standards and documents that will help us out. Like in the government, you have NIST 800 that guides you through how to actually comply with the federal government's protection of federal information and federal information systems. So that is GRC in a nutshell. How do we comply? It's not always hacking or software engineering or any of that. Like it's a much broader look and perspective of the organization and how we comply with the larger government entity or with the larger body of entities that are controlling credit cards or whatever it is, right? That is GRC in a nutshell. Now, that said, if you are in cybersecurity, hell, I would say even in IT, there is a path to GRC. And I'll name a couple that should open up the door to you to like turn that light bulb on for you. One of them is the security policy. The security policy is one of the most important pieces of GRC. So if you've ever touched a security policy, if you've ever helped to modify it, if you've ever read a security policy, you'll have an idea of like what it is, and it might even be something you could put on your resume. It depends on how you word it. I'm not telling you to lie on your resume or anything like that. I'm saying this is one way to do it. We want to put this kind of stuff on our resume. GRC stuff consists of security policies. If you've ever written one, that's probably That's really good stuff. If you've ever written a procedure, which most of you guys, if you've been in IT, you've done it before. If you've ever written a procedure, that's GRC type work. If you've ever done continuous monitoring, if you've ever done disaster recovery, if you've ever looked at audit logs, all of those things are part of GRC. Now, your job is to figure out what part of GRC it's in. Now, if you're in the government sector, there's tons of stuff you already do all the time that's in line with FISMA, which is a federal regulation. But that right there, you put that like you would say something to the effect of that you were part that you. Let me see if I can. What would you say on there to line up with the GRC type stuff you want to put in your resume? Kind of sauce and the ingredients and the spices you want to put in your resume to make it pop for GRC. One of them would be vulnerability management is a good one. So vulnerability management, if you applied patches on 2,000 systems throughout an organization, you would want to put in there that you spearheaded the vulnerability management team. That's like probably in the spearheaded, right? Maybe you were a part of vulnerability management team that secured 10,000 systems across the enterprise in align with NIST 853 controls, because that's what you're doing. You're applying security controls from the NIST 800 if you're in the federal government now. And you need to put that in your resume because that's what you did. But see, a lot of IT guys who work in the federal government, they don't know that they did that. They're just doing stuff. So, so you already are on the path. If you're in IT, you just got to know how to word it on your resume. Now, the path, like, let me pull out a little bit. Like, I don't know where you are, King Sosa, in your career. So I'm gonna pull out. So kind of hit a deeper view here. So let's say you're IT dude, you're on help desk. So what you want to do is highlight all the cybersecurity stuff that you've done. Now, if you're already in cybersecurity, you're doing cybersecurity analyst work, or you're a cybersecurity specialist of some type, or whatever you have that role, that is awesome. That's great. You still need to hit the notes that they want to hear on your resume for GRC. Security policies, writing procedures, making sure that's in line with whatever standard is out there. Now, the path forward is to know which regulations you need to hit. I can tell you from a bird's eye view, retail, PCI compliance. Financial sector is going to be, it can be PCI as well, but Sarbanes-Oxley is a big one for financial institutions. And some banks. And then for government, NIST 800, also NIST cybersecurity framework is another one. For healthcare, it's going to be HIPAA, HITRUST. Those will lead you in the right direction if you want to put those on your resume as much as possible. All aspects of those things. The first thing you need to do on your path to a GRC is learn the hell I just said. Like, if you're in retail and you're an IT guy in retail or cybersecurity guy in retail, read up on PCI compliance and then put that in your resume of how you've been doing it. That's the path forward with GRC stuff right there. Larry says best government agencies to have travel as a big part of work. The best government agencies have travel as a big part of work. I work primarily as an IT project manager doing Scrum. That's not Scrum, SCRM. So that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Thank you. Let me see. I got some more stuff here on TikTok. How much do you make in your current position, if you don't mind? I make 130 salary. I make 130,000 a year, right? And in my last job, I had a part-time job. I was making 80 an hour, which is, that's more. It's better. It's like $20 an hour more. So than what I make now. It's like 65 an hour or something. And then last job, my part-time job was 80. And then I had before that, it was around 100 and it was around 100. They started me off at like 130, but I stayed there for like 3 years and it got up to like 140, 150. And then with all the benefits, it was more like 180 at my last job. This one with the benefits is probably like 150. I'm making a little bit less than what I was making before. And reason why I don't mind telling people how much I make is because this, for me, the job is not. This is not my final. Like this is stair steps. You know what I mean? I don't. I have a side income already. So I feel like telling people how much I make is not like my salary is not a big deal. And so that's how much I. Now keep in mind, obviously CISSP. I have a bachelor's degree in IT. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I specialize in cybersecurity and information system security officer work. I can make more or less depending on where I'm at. Like if I went to cybersecurity analyst work, which is like analyzing all the data, all of the cybersecurity incidents that are coming through, security incidents that are coming through and stuff, I would make significantly less. I just don't have that skill set. I have some, but it's not. It's in my tool bag that's in my closet that has cobwebs on it. It's been a while since I did that work, so I have to polish up on that. But the stuff I'm doing now, ISO work, information system security officer, specifically for the government, GRC for the government. If I wanted to, I could easily make 200, easily. I just like working from home. I like where I'm at. I'm not trying to move. I'm not trying to go overseas. I'm not trying to be like an upper level manager. There's a lot of things that I'll have to do in order to get to that 200 plus. It comes with a cost, when you get to the 180. Whenever you hear people talking about 180, 200, they're usually talking about senior roles, upper level manager type roles, and those tend to be a little bit more stressful. There is a fintech side and a real exciting thing. If you work for Netflix and Google and all those guys pay a lot more, but a lot of times they'll pay you 200, but when they're saying 250 or 300 or whatever, that's usually talking about with all the other benefits like the shares and all that kind of stuff. And that stuff, like look at it right now, it's pretty volatile, right? They're laying off people left and right because the market's not doing well. So their success and their money depends on the market. Mine depends on what the needs of the government are. And the government always needs people to do this work. So I have 130 solid income. If we lost our contract, I could go and get another 140, 130 job easily. I'm mainly doing this for my kids. You know what I mean? Like I'm mainly doing this because I need a stable job that has medical. The medical's really got what's got me because I need that for my kid. My kids have a lot of medical issues, so I can't survive in the U.S. on the medical's killing me, man. I tried, I mean, I have a business, I got money and stuff, but the medicals, it murdered me, man. It murdered me. So I had to get that 130 with the medical benefits, unfortunately, until I could figure something else out. That's where I'm at. 2 weeks into being an ISO. So far, it's good so far. I've been IT for about 10 years. Christopher, so a couple things, man, is don't stress yourself out. What you'll notice in IT and cybersecurity in general and in ISO work is a lot of people freak out. And when I first started, that's where my mind was because I would take on all the responsibilities of the organization and that's not really your job. This took me a long time to figure out. Maybe you're smarter, you figured it out already, but the responsibility of security is everyone's job. You're kind of more like a reporter than an enforcer. And the minute I understood that, that's when I just was able to just calm down. You're a reporter. Like whenever something comes through the pipe, if it's a security incident, it's this vulnerability patches, if it's your job is to report as accurate as possible and communicate that information so you can figure out what's the security posture of the organization. And it's not just your job to do that. It's cybersecurity is everyone's job, and you're a reporter telling, hey, here's where we're at with the vulnerabilities. Here's where we're at with the risk assessment. Here's where we're at with this. And you're doing a lot of documents, you're doing a lot of coordination, you're not the one usually doing the hands-on stuff. I have had ISO jobs where I was the cybersecurity dude doing some of the hands-on stuff with just sitting down with my system admin, but the system admin was leading the charge on the direct technical stuff. So don't stress yourself out. You're a reporter. Don't try to take on that stuff on your shoulders. The risk needs to be distributed. It's not on you. Let me see. Larry says master's degree. He's got 2 master's degrees, a security clearance, and been in government almost 5 years, trying to level up. Appreciate your content, insight, and you doing these live streams. Super helpful. Thank you. Thanks, Larry. I appreciate you, man. And then somebody asked Larry a question about is governance and risk. Is governance and supply chain risk management in a subsection of GRC related to it, or is that a whole other thing? I'll let Larry speak on that one. I think he's better qualified to answer that question. Kirko says, I'm not in cybersecurity, but I'm getting a look for a cybersec internship. Should I give it a shot? Yeah, Kirko, like, what do you have to lose, man? Just try it out. Maybe you'll love it. Maybe you won't like it. Maybe it won't be. Like, if you can get in there and you like it, I can tell you this, man. So there's pluses and minuses. The minuses of cybersecurity is that it can be very stressful. Like that's something the gurus don't really talk about. Some of these smart dudes that you see on there, they're like high level cybersecurity engineers. They're like software dudes that also do cybersecurity. There's some really clever dudes on YouTube, and from time to time I'll stumble across their videos. What they don't talk about, the cybersecurity dudes don't talk about, is that there is a stress level to it, because you're dealing with people's livelihood. A lot of times the security can directly impact the bottom line of an organization. It can directly impact the effectiveness of the mission or the business essential functions of an organization. So people get upset when you're messing with their money, and cybersecurity does that. But it's a necessary evil, because if you don't protect your stuff, all manner of leaks are going to happen, and you're going to lose even more money. So when it comes to cybersecurity, people get in their feelings, and you have to have this level of emotional intelligence that allows you to remain calm, see things clearly, 20/20 vision, and like looking at the big picture and not getting too much in your feelings. So that's the negative part, is that there's an emotional component that can be stressful in a lot of cybersecurity jobs. Other negative things, a lot of times, this is another thing you don't talk about, man. So a lot of times I get in these positions, and this is the past 7 years been like this. Every position I get in, they're not manned enough. We don't have enough people with the skill set to do this work. And a lot of times I find myself wearing 2 or 3 hats, or on a system that has 100,000 systems on it, and I'm one dude working by myself, or there's 2 dudes working, and then there's not enough people to do all the work, and there's a floodgate of vulnerabilities or whatever we got managed. And I've found myself in that position many, many times. There's not enough people to do this work. It can be very stressful with people freaking out about incidents that happen, or they got hacked or whatever, and you're in the room when that stuff happens, so you're like a first responder. So you're seeing some real ugly stuff sometimes, and you got to remain calm, just like a paramedic on the scene of a bad accident. If they freak out and panic while blood's spurting out of the dude's arm, you know what I mean? Like, what's it going to do to the person who has to have a tourniquet on them? If you're freaking out and you're supposed to be a first responder, you got to remain calm. So those are the negative things about it. But the positive things is that it's job security like crazy. Once you get the skill set and you get in there, man, it's so much job security. Like, even if we lose this contract, I can go to another job without a problem at all. And they try to retain good people, hardworking people with the skills. They're gonna do what they can to keep you. They'll take you to the side, like, man, are you sure you want to do this? Man, we could. Is there anything we can do to keep you? They'll take you to the side and like talk to you. Like they want to keep people because it's hard to find people. So job security is one. Another great thing. It pays pretty good. If you compare it to other parts of IT, other jobs out there, it pays pretty good. So those are probably the main things about cybersecurity that I like, and some of the pros and cons for you to make your consideration. But as far as your internship, I'd say go for it, man. Try it out. Let me see. Somebody said, do you have insight? Let me put this on the screen here. Do you have insight on RemoteISM or ISO job opportunities? Yes, Honda Civic, I do. So I've been working, first of all, I've been doing this for a while. I've been working remotely in ISO type positions since 2014. For the government, for private sector, I've been doing GRC type work. Not really manager. I really try to avoid management positions. It's just, for me, it's a little bit much. I want to do security stuff. I do not want to be managing people. That's just me personally. So I'm not taking an ISM type position. I run meetings and stuff. That's the closest I get to a manager type position. I'll run meetings. I'll jump in. I'll talk to CFOs, CSOs. I'll talk to CIOs. But as far as managing people and like putting a score on whether or not we should employ this person and stuff, I don't normally do that stuff. But ISO, GRC type work, that's what I've been doing since 2014, and remotely, by the way. So that's my qualifications for this. Do I have an insight into it? Yeah, I could tell you a thing or two about it. They are competitive to get. They do exist. ISO jobs and ISM jobs do exist remotely. Been doing it back to back for 7 years, but they are competitive. And what I mean by that is when you go to Indeed, that's where you go to find them. Indeed.com, Monster.com, Dice.com, Career, they're everywhere. You can search and filter by just remote jobs. By the way, I wrote a book about it. It's like a 20-page book, man. And I tell you how I've been able to do it. It just walks you right through it. It's like a $4 book. You can get it on Amazon. Link in description, link in bio. Just go follow convocourses.net. You'll find the book somewhere on one of my sites. Or you can just go to Amazon and then type in Bruce Brown, remote work or cyber space security. You'll find my books there. There's a whole bunch of them. So anyway, I sell it on my site too. So I do have some stuff to say about it. Number one, they're hard to get. They're competitive, I should say, not hard, but they're competitive. That means you got to keep trying and trying and trying. You can't just give up after getting rejected a couple times, going to 2 interviews and they didn't want you. And then you're like, oh, boo-hoo. I guess that's it. I guess I wasn't meant to do this. No. It's a numbers game. You got to keep applying and applying. My ass with 20 years of experience, is hard for me to get one. I mean, not hard. It's challenging for me to get one. I got to keep on applying and doing the interview because they're very competitive. There's just, you'll see 100 applicants have applied for that job. So that's the number one thing is just, you got to keep complying. There's a strategy to it. Check out my book if you want to know more about that strategy. Another thing is not all remote jobs are the same. Case in point, right now I'm on vacation. That's why if you come to my lives normally, I have a whole different setup. I'm literally in a condo right now overseas. I can't work here. So I had to take time off to come. I love to travel. I had to take time off to travel. Normally, one of my old jobs that was also remote, I was able to take my work with me and work and stay longer all over the world. Well, a certain place you can't go, so there's restrictions on where you can and can't go or whatever. But yeah, so that's another thing is that every time you get a remote work, it's not all work, remote work is equal. You got 100% remote, you got flex remote work, you've got remote work where they allow you to work in the office 2 days, 3 days a week, and then you can work home. You've got remote work. They say okay, you can work remote, but you cannot go outside of the United States. That's the job I have right now. The other one was 100%. I could go anywhere I wanted. So it's not always the same. What else could I tell you about it that's important to know? Not all jobs lend themselves, not all positions lend themselves to working remotely. Like classified jobs are not normally going to be remote. I know that they exist, but they're typically, if it's a very sensitive information job, they're not, they don't, there's not, they don't have a lot of those out there. They do exist, but um, certain jobs where you need more face-to-face time don't really lend themselves to remote work. So they exist. You just got to go out there and get them. So I hope that helps. Let me see here. Best way to prep for CISSP with RMF experience. So this was me a few years back before I got the. Oh man, my neck. Military effed me up, man. So anyway, so CISSP. So that was me years ago before I got the CISSP. I was a risk management framework guy. Most of my experience was in risk management framework. I did have some networking background. I had a little bit at the time. I had networking background. I had done help desk. I'd done a little bit of server stuff. Not a lot. I was technical, but like not super technical. Like some of my boys, some of my people are very, very technical. That's all they do. But most of my experience was from risk management framework. What I noticed was that there were a couple domains that were very challenging to me. And so I actually spent more time on those things. Lean into the stuff that's the hardest. Like David Goggins, I don't know if you ever heard of him. Mentor of mine, very hardcore, ex-Navy SEAL, ex-TAC-P, Green Beret, I think he tried every special forces unit. That guy's a maniac. But anyway, one of the things he said he does that it really inspires me is that if there's something he doesn't like or something he's afraid of, he leans really hard into it. Like the reason why he's an ultra marathon runner is because he hates running. How mind-blowing is that? The man hates running. So he started doing ultra marathon. Ultra marathons is like 100-mile runs. And that's what you have to do for the test. Like what I did was I leaned into the things I was weakest at, the stuff I hated the most, which for me was cryptography. I didn't know what it was. I didn't like it. It's a bunch of crap you got to memorize. I don't have any hands on it. So it didn't feel like normal to me. I really heavily focused on that one. And I think there was at the time, there was a more technical side of it that went into like securing networks. That part I was kind of weak on. And so I just leaned heavily into those. And I didn't ignore the risk management framework. There's a piece in there about security compliance. That stuff, I ignore it, but most of my work went into that stuff. When you prep for it, make sure you pay very close attention to each domain and what percentage of the test each domain has on the test. That's going to be very important. For me, what I did was I took a book that was about the CISSP. I took notes on each chapter. Like I took my own notes. Like if you're taking your own written notes, for me, first of all, I'll memorize stuff more if I write it down. I'm a tactile learner. So whatever style that you learn best on, use that. You might be an audio learner. You might be a visual learner, whatever you use. For me, tactile works the best. So I just took notes and forced me to only write down what was most important, because otherwise I'm rewriting the whole book, which is not smart, So I took notes on the entire book, all the most important parts. Then I studied my notes. I memorized my notes. Like if you started off with the top cryptographical modules, I could I memorized which ones were the top at the time. It's all different now, but yeah. So that's kind of a couple tips for the CISSP that worked for me. I was very nervous about it, so I actually did the Security Plus first, then did the CISSP, which It helped a little bit, but it's a very different test. So it mainly helped me to be more confident that I could take it, and helped me to focus on certain areas that there's some overlap between the two, but not very much. Um, oh man, what can I say about it? It's like somebody said it best. They said the CISSP is a mile wide and an inch deep, an inch deep, meaning it just covers so much ground as to be almost useless. um, it just covers so much information. Another thing, one of the most effective things I did was I found this database of questions. At the time was called, I'm not telling you to do brain dumps or anything like that. You should really know the material. And brain dumps can be misleading and have a bunch of lies in it. So I'm not telling you to do that. But there's these banks of questions that you can get your hands on. Sometimes they're in the back of the books. It just go through those questions over and over again, man. And that was the last thing I did, was I just went through question after question after question after question after question to the point where I would know the answer as soon as I started reading the first part of the question. I would just know the answer to it, So get that familiar with the material. So hope that helps. There's a reason why I chose never to teach the CISSP. It's just ridiculously. It's just too much information in it to cover. Let me see. YouTube, got some questions on YouTube. Jesse says, do you know if IT audit skills are transferable to cyber? Cybersecurity includes IT audits. IT audits is a huge, huge piece of cybersecurity as a whole. To just an example of this would be that PCI compliance, risk management framework compliance, Sarbanes-Oxley, COBIT, ISO 27001, all of those, one thing they have in common is they all have an audit feature, an assessment. They call it different names. Some of them call it an audit, some of them call it assessment, but all of them have an assessment feature. And I'm assuming you're talking about where you're running scans and looking at the vulnerabilities. I'm assuming you're talking about making sure that looking at the data, the network traffic, and make sure that the data at rest is it has a certain level of encryption, auditing whether or not the data in transit has certain encryption, auditing the phishing campaigns, making sure that the organization is being trained on avoiding phishing, clicking on phishing emails. I'm assuming that's what you mean by IT audit. Maybe you're coming from another field where it means something different, but if you're talking about cybersecurity audits, security audits on the system and ensuring that security controls are in place, that is a huge part of cybersecurity. As a matter of fact, there's a whole career path for that. In the military, in the federal government, they call it SCA, Security Control Assessors. They have different flavors of security control assessors or control assessors. Federal government calls it security assessors. That's a whole field in and of itself. And I think in PCI compliance, that's the credit card industry, they call them QSAs, or I don't know what QSA stands for. I'm sorry, but they call them QSAs, security audit, quality system audits. I don't know. Somebody knows, but it's a QSA in the retail PCI compliance space. They have different names for it, but yeah, to answer your question, you basically are a cybersecurity person if you're doing IT audits. Yeah, that's a huge part of what we do. Let me see here. Let me go to TikTok first. I got a lot of stuff going on with TikTok. Let me go to the bottom. I know I'm missing some people here. Let me speed read through these. Cyber SOC versus blue team advisory or red team advisory. I'm thinking first one for career. I'm thinking first one for career advice. He's thinking about doing cyber SOC as the first start and asking me for for advice on it. I'm totally butchering your question, so I apologize. So they said Cyber Security Operations Center versus Blue Team versus Red Team, and they're thinking about doing Security Operations Center first. And kind of just to explain what these are. So, Cyber Security Operations Center are the people who are watching all the logs in on an organization systems. They're watching the logs and looking for interesting traffic. They're looking for people trying to break in or trying to do password breaks or trying to break passwords, brute force attacks on accounts. They're looking for people doing things they shouldn't be doing on the network, but they're looking at all the logs throughout the organization. And then a blue team, I hope I don't butcher this, but blue team is the guys who defend against attacks. They're working with like a firewall team. They're working with people who do IPS, IDS. They're looking for, and actually it can include SOC, the SOC team, the Security Operations Center. And then the red team are people who aggress on an organization. Like these are ethical hackers, so these are people who are actually infiltrating the organization to see if there's finding weaknesses. So that's blue team, red team, and SOC. So SOC will probably be the most well-rounded of those, because a SOC might have to have a red team. Sometimes they'll break off cybersecurity analysts and say, okay, you guys are red team, you guys are blue team, and then they'll have like capture flag exercises internally, or they'll have things where they have to get ready for an IG inspection that's going to do pen testing, which is red teams type stuff. So I'd say SOC, probably cyber SOC is a better, more well-rounded pick for you on that one. Whereas red team would just be kind of one thing, and blue team would kind of be just one thing. And SOC would almost be like a purple team. Like they'll have exercises where they're doing a little bit of both from time to time. At least in the SOCs that I was a part of, we'd have to know both of those things a little bit there would be some people who are very, very good at one thing or the other, and some people who focus on entirely just one thing. But as a SOC person, you kind of had to know what an attack looks like from the outside in and how to defend against it when you're in the inside looking out. So let me see. Another one here would be I have a TSSCI Poly PMP and plan to get a Security Plus. What's my market value in the government? It depends on where you are. So a couple factors. Number one is going to be job title. Is going to be a very huge determining factor. And you can Google this right now. Go to Google and type in the any kind of job description, and you'll see what I mean. ISO, I'll give you an example. If you go to Google, type in ISO, ISSO, and then put location is the other thing. Job description, location is going to be the biggest determining factor of how much money you make. It's a gigantic bonus that you have a TSSCI Poly. And if you happen to be on the East Coast, which it sounds like you are, because those are the only motherfuckers who want that Poly, they're the only people who want it. So if you're on a DMV area, it's going to pay way more than off the top of my head. I don't know where you're at, but it's going to be over 6 figures. It's going to be at least 6 figures, I should say. With that Security Plus, now it's going to also depend on your experience as well. That's also a factor. If you're coming in cold off the streets with no experience in project management, you're going to start from the lower end of the spectrum rather than the middle. You have less to work with if you have less experience. That Security Plus will help you though, because Security Plus is very marketable, especially if you're trying to kind of creep your way into cybersecurity. So good path. Let me see. Got some other questions here. I'm not going to do this too much longer, guys. It's 1 a.m. here. It's like, what time is it? It's like 3 a.m. Oh shit, it's like 3 a.m. I got to get some sleep soon, guys. Let me see. I'll take a couple more questions. Do you specifically work with PMs in your field? Anything they bring to the table? Um, Anything they bring to the table at your level? Excuse me. You can provide. Can you provide insight? Yeah. So mostly, right now, just to kind of give you an idea, I'm working for a government organization, and I'm on a contract that works with a government organization, and we work directly with program managers and project managers. There's a difference between the two. Sometimes organizations use them interchangeably, but program manager essentially is the people who kind of the puppet strings. They're the guys who are sitting in the meetings for how much funding we're going to get, did we get the contract, and blah blah blah. Like they're usually looking at more than one project. Project managers are very focused on like laser beam, where I'm only working on this thing right here, project X, for this X system, for these. And they might have two or three, but typically they're focused on one thing. So they're working directly with a specific engineering or technical team, but they're doing that one thing. Program manager usually do. I work with both of those, and my insight is we need the they are needed very much. Project and program managers are there's a difference between having them or not having them is a successful. Either you're going to be successful or not going to be successful based off of having good project managers and program managers, because you need leadership to guide you in the right direction. A lot of times, and cybersecurity people are flying blind because we don't know. We're just doing our piece, right? We're very deep on this one thing. We don't know the big picture, the fiduciary, the government, or whatever organizations, what's going on. So those guys are our eyes and ears saying, hey, guys, we need to go this way. Hey, upper leadership is saying, hey, we need to focus on these. It really helps to prioritize what we need to do, especially from a GRC perspective, because I'll have like literally 100,000 things, like 100,000 vulnerabilities or whatever, right? And the tool tells me what vulnerable, like severities and all that kind of stuff, but the severity of those depends on whether it's exposed to the internet or if it's an outdated end of life system that's not going to get any support anymore, or how long it's been there. There's so many other factors, but one of the biggest factors is if the government, in my case, is saying we want to fix this thing yesterday, and that's going to, for me, put that on a different pedestal, and help me to guide me in the right direction of where I need to put most of my focus. And Larry, thank you for that $10. So that's it. It's super important to have a project manager and a program manager on my team. And to back me up, here's another big one. As a cybersecurity guy, as a GRC person, a lot of times these different rules or regulations will come from on high and say, yea, verily, nobody will use SSL version 3 anymore, period, at all. Right. And then I got to go talk to the IT guys and say, hey, guys, call a meeting together, all the big players, and say, okay, we can't have SSL version 3 on our environment anymore. And they're going to be like, what the? And they'll be like, do you realize we have that everywhere? Do you know we have that everywhere? And it helps me if the program manager is saying, hey, guys, like this is not coming from us. This is coming from this executive order from the president of the United States is saying this is what we have to do. Like we're all on the same team. I got my project manager, my program manager, me, managers, everybody's in on this. We're just inviting you into the party. And it's not just me saying, you guys will have this. A lot of cybersecurity guys, especially GRC guys, they come in as enforcers, and they won't even say the context of why. This is why people hate cybersecurity, because there's these guys are just, I don't know, like they're power hungry. It reminds me when I was a police officer. I was in the military. I was an MP, and it was called Security Forces when I was in. And let me tell you something. Not everybody can be police officers, and that's why you have all these people shooting people in the back. I mean, I don't even like, what the hell? They'll shoot a dude in the back that's running away because he has weed on him or something. It's like, why are you shooting him in the? That doesn't even make any sense. So the reason why is because some people can't handle power, man. As soon as they get a gun and authority, they get that badge on them, they can't lose their minds. Some people should not have power, and it's the same with cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, you're given a certain level of responsibility and a certain level of gravitas comes with that title. What you say sometimes is law, and you need to be mindful of that. But some people, they come in, they get that title as a cybersecurity person, they're like, you will do this to the IT people. It's like, no, we have to get together and see how we can do this, because we might not be able to remove SSL version 3 within a 6-month period like they want to. It might not be possible for us to do that. And as a technical person coming from that side of the house, I understand that. And so having that program manager to help to kind of solidify the narrative of the direction we're all trying to go in is huge. It's huge, man. So that's my take. Project manager, especially if you have a bigger, they are so important for large projects. You cannot have I've been on large projects that did not have a program manager or a project manager, or at least one that wasn't active. They were one in name only. They wouldn't be at meetings. They didn't know what was going on. I don't know what the hell they were doing, but they weren't helping us. They weren't in meetings. They weren't feeling the fire. None of that. A good project managers and program managers, they run interference for you. They're in on it. They know what's going on, and they're in on they know what's happening. They know what levels of priority we need to do. And they'll listen to you and be like, okay, listen, I understand that the government wants to do this, but look, this is a real vulnerability. If we don't fix this shit right now, we can get hacked tomorrow. Like this. And so they'll help you with priority, and they'll be like, okay, I'm going to go push this forward and say, we really need to get this done. So they're on your team. So project managers are invaluable, man, especially for larger. That's a great question, by the way. Thank you for that one. That was great. And thank you for that $10. I appreciate that. Every bit helps. Let me see. Got a couple. I'll answer a couple other questions here. Do you recommend Security Plus or CAP for junior ISSEs working with risk management framework? ISSE, junior ISSEs. If you're in the government and you're doing risk management framework, okay, all right, let me enlighten you. So if you're worried about your like overall career wise, I'm gonna go with Security Plus. It's more marketable. If you leave this position, it's just more marketable. People don't even know what CAP is. In fact, it's not even called the CAP. I don't know if you knew this, but it's no longer called the CAP. It's called the ISE2 CGRC. I have both of these. I have a Security Plus. I mean, it's expired. I have the original one that doesn't expire, and I have the new one that does. I have both, and that one was way more marketable than the CAP. Now, they're coming around with it. IC2 is really good about marketing their stuff. It's already shopped with the government and everything. People know what it is more now. I think it was a marketing thing that they changed the name from CAP to CGRC. I think it was a great move because now people are going to know what it is just by the name of it. It's GRC certification, but it's specifically for the government. It's not. I don't know if they ever expand on it. So, okay. Career-wise, Security Plus. It's just more marketable. Right now, it's more marketable. For your job, if you're working for the federal government, you're working with ISOs all the time. You're working with upper level management. You guys are securing the system. Then hands down, for your job, it's going to be the CGRC, hands down, because it's going to force you to know all the stuff and the terminology and kind of get your mind in that hemisphere risk management framework. The CGRC, also known as CAP, formerly known as CAP, it focuses 100% on NIST 800. NIST 837 to be precise. I mean, I'm almost spoiling the whole test for you because it's NIST 837, it's FIPS 200, and it's FIPS 199, sprinkled in with some FIPS 800-660 Volume 2. You read those, you understand them, break them down. That's most of the test right there. Those are your sources right there. There's a couple official guides that are still called the CAP, and they'll guide you in the right direction. Some of the language is kind of screwy, and it's very academic, but it'll force you to read those books. And once you read those books, man, that's everything you need to know right there. So, let me see. Larry said, I work with people in the Fed that act the same way, power hungry. Oh my gosh, man, these people, I can make a whole channel about this kind of stuff. And I work with lots of project managers of projects and never had an issue. I communicate with my team and I do my best to get what they need to get the project done. That's how you do it right there, my man right there. This is a very mature information system security officer right here. This is a very mature GRC person. These kind of people you want to listen to because they not only have the technical background to understand what's going on, but they have the emotional intelligence that it takes to guide a team in the right direction, to limit the amount of exposure that your vulnerabilities, which everybody has, limit the amount of exposure there, and ultimately improve the cybersecurity risk. And that is what this whole thing is about. It's about controlling the level of risk to our systems so that we don't get hacked. And if you do get hacked, you already know how to respond to it, so the impact is less. So this man right here is the kind of person you want on your team, especially for very important large systems. Somebody said on TikTok, I have a BS in cybersecurity and going for a master's degree in information system management. I think that's what that is. And I have a network plus in security. That's awesome. Great. That's a great. Only thing I'll say is start now on getting your experience. If you don't not already, get experience. How you might add, if you're in school, I would try to get a working student program. Most schools have them. Try to get in, even if it's help desk. Don't think that's beneath you. Get hands on, because that experience is what separates the men from the boys. When you get out in this field, that experience separates the men from the boys. And help desk is very, very good because help desk gives you hands on and lets you. I'm doing tier 1 help desk right now. You are on the right path, Sean. He says, I'm motivated. I'm money motivated. What roles are in demand? What recommendations do you have for an area of focus? Okay, I got a couple for you. And you choose which one you want. But number one of them, in no particular order, will be cloud. Right now in this market, cloud is super hot. I would highly suggest you learn AWS cloud, the entry level one even. The reason why I say that is last year, when I got this current job I'm at, I went through like 3 or 4 different interviews. And out of those, let's say 4 interviews I had, it might have been 5. That's why I say 4. I don't remember. So it was a lot. So let's say it was 4 interviews, right? Out of 4 interviews, 3 of them asked me about cloud, what my experience was, and how much I knew about it. Cloud. So that's one. The other one, money motivated, that's going to pay, is to specialize specialize in GRC type stuff. What I mean by that is read up on, there's a couple things. Read up on NIST 837 risk management framework. That's for the federal government. Read up on PCI compliance. That's for retail. Another one would be ISO 27001, ISO 27002. Read up on those. Try to sneak those into your resume as much as possible. There's other ones like COBIT. There's another one called Sarbanes-Oxley. There's HIPAA. That's specifically for the healthcare industry. Learn as much as you can about those and sneak them onto your resume. I'm not telling you to lie on your resume, but even if you get very familiar with it, you can mention it that you're familiar with it. And you might even be doing some of the stuff that we do in NIST 800, by the way. If you read up on it, you'll be like, oh, okay. I've enabled, I've done AU controls before. That's implementing audit logs. That's reviewing audit logs. I've done that before. You can sneak that into your resume, right? Like, this is a little trick people don't really talk about, but you're doing a lot of stuff that's in those compliance things. So GRC, cloud, right now, very hot. And the great thing about GRC is that it's evergreen. That's why I'm mentioning it. Evergreen meaning, you know how seasons change, right? You've got evergreen trees and you've got deciduous trees. Deciduous trees, or I don't know if I'm saying that right, but trees that every winter, summer, spring, fall, the leaves are changing colors and they fall off and then they bloom again. Regular technical IT is like that. It's just constantly changing, evolving. Things are, then now they're talking about AI and they're talking about all these things are constantly being integrated into technology. Cloud's the same way. Cloud's now starting to integrate a lot of AI. You got to learn that. So as it changes, you're going to have to learn all those new things. Evergreen trees, they're just green year round. They don't, it'd be winter, snow gets on the leaves, falls off, summer, still green. It's just green year round. It's evergreen. That's what I mean. You don't have to, you're not learning all this new stuff. It changes from time to time, maybe every 3, 4, 5 years, where it went from one revision to another revision. But for the most part, it pays well, and I'm not having to scramble to learn some new stuff. I do it anyway because it's fun to me. The technical stuff is fun, but I don't have to do it as much as the guys who are on Sidewinder firewall, which evolved to the Cisco firewall that now is ASA firewall. Now it's something else. It changes. If a company buys that company, it changes. If they want to change the interface because they can no longer use Java, they have to change. It's constantly changing. So those are the two I would recommend. Is there anything else? Specialize. That probably the name of the game is specialization. An old head told me when I first got in, he said, you got to specialize in one thing. Whatever it is choose one thing and just get really good at that one thing. And then you'll be the person they call on for that one thing. And that's how the real dollars are made from specialized people. Generalists kind of stay, on the ground floor, but the people who rise up are the people who specialize. It can be in databases, it can be in cloud, it can be in GRC, but just choose one path, specialize on it. I'm not saying don't know your shit, but take one thing and get really good at that one thing. All right, guys, I think that's it. It's real late here. I shouldn't be even doing this, but I'll try to do more of these. These are kind of fun for me to do. I kind of enjoy them. But thank you so much, Larry. Thanks for those great questions and comments and everything. I appreciate everybody who follows me. Go check out my book. We got tons of books out there on Amazon. Check out the site, convocourses.net, convocourses.com. Join the community. At some point in the future, I'd like to be way more active than I have been. But right now, I just been working my ass off. But thank you guys so much. Appreciate you. I'll be on here again real soon. All right, there we go. Peace.